Hey, this is Eric from Catching Light.
Hey, this is Hemp.
Hey, this is Glenn.
Hi, I'm Steve-O.
Hey, this is Drew Hines with Hindsight Imagery.
This is Matt Callahan at Digimatty Photographic Services.
Hey, this is Jason, and welcome to Tales from the Pit. Hello and welcome to Tales from the Pit, the behind-the-lens access for concerts and photography. Today, we welcome back Helen, and this time she brought two of her photographer friends, both Kerika and Sancha. How you guys doing? Welcome to the show.
Hey, how you doing?
Thank you.
Awesome.
Thanks for having me.
So to get started, I mean, we've kind of already got a little bit of a history with Helen. Can you guys tell us about your background, how you got into photography, or sort of your history as, or to that up to this point, sort of?
Okay. I actually went to college and I studied communications at Howard University. I didn't finish getting my degree there, but I did take photography classes there. And that was like with the whole dark room and everything. I'm old, but anyway, so chemicals and everything. And that's what made me be like, wow, this is really cool. And when I got back home in Brooklyn, Spike Lee was doing, the Spike Lee thing. And, I didn't really have, I guess, the experience or really the desire to really work on the set. But I heard that he was doing these seminars at LIU. And they were going to need a photographer. So I kind of pitched myself and they said, okay, go do it. We'll pay for the film. We won't pay you, but we'll pay you for the film. And I just was like the only photographer there. And I was able to just sit through, weeks and weeks of these seminars with Robert De Niro and Martin Scorsese and the Hughes brothers and Debbie Allen and so that was like really, and I had a portfolio after that. So once I had the portfolio, I was able to take it around and I was able to create a freelance photography career for myself. I had a small daughter. And so I would just, do parties and sell them to little local newspapers, magazines. Remember magazines? Little magazines, selling magazines. And then I kind of parlayed that into doing more corporate stuff back when they would hire photographers to, if you're sponsoring an event, and they were hiring a photographer to do that, to cover parties. And I worked with a couple of independent publicity companies like GQ Media and Sapphire Communications. Some of these places, Uniworld, some of these places don't even exist anymore. I know Uniworld does. And that's really how I got started doing the kind of photography I do. When I did mostly concert photography, it was more freelance stuff for different publications like The Source, Vibe. I think I might have sold one to Variety at some point. But that's really how I kind of got my foot in the door, per se. Yeah. That
is an amazing start right off the bat. That is, I don't know how Sancha's going to follow that up, but that is amazing.
She's got almost.
How soon?
That was pretty impressive.
How soon after your schooling did you start? Did you get that gig?
Excuse me?
How soon after your college did you get that gig? Was that right away?
It was like the summer. Like I came home maybe June, and then that summer I was just. You have to understand the 40 Acres and a Mule company was literally around the corner from my grandmother's house and around the corner from where Helen and I went to high school. So I was literally in the neighborhood, and everybody knew Spike Lee's making a movie. Spike Lee's doing this. He was always doing something, and the big thing that summer was he was having a film seminar. So
shout out to Brooklyn Tech.
Right. So I kind of took advantage of the opportunity, and I knew people that worked there, and I had some stuff to show from school, but I hadn't done anything professional up until that point.
That's just amazing. I mean, that just builds an amazing portfolio right out of the gate. That is super cool. Wow.
Yeah.
And I guess a lot of that is about, really you and you got to get out there and go get it. Basically that mentality of, all right, I can shoot photos. This seems like an awesome opportunity. I got to go do this. So it's cool, to have that perspective of like, all right, I'm not just going to sit here. I'm going to go see if I can get into this thing.
Yeah. I was like, this can't be happening right around the corner from me without me doing something, So.
That is super cool. All right. So Sancha, how about you? What's your history with photography?
Sancha.
I'm sorry. I'm already messing it up. I am so sorry.
I'm gonna give you time.
And the night's early too.
So me, I started in college as well. I actually went to Morgan State University, and I was a graphic design major. And part of the curriculum was to take that, intro into photography course. And I did the same thing, started shooting, black and white film, going into the dark room and pulling out the chemicals, just like Kerika said, and developing all the film and everything. And from there, I started just kind of hopping on the bus from the school and just going out into the city and downtown, the Baltimore Harbor, and just photographing people out there, just people watching a lot. And then I started, a lot of my friends are, musicians or poets, and they used to do a lot of like open mics. So I would go to a lot of their venues and they would just see me with this camera and ask me like, oh, you're a photographer. And I just be like, yeah, I guess so. Like, I had no idea what I was doing. I would just be like, sure, I'm a photographer. Yeah. So they would ask me like if I could take photos for them for some flyers or something, or they would say they're featuring and can I come out and take pictures? So I would come with my little camera, not knowing anything about shooting photography or doing these venues and, low light photography or anything like that. I would just go out there and just kind of be winging it. And, while I was there was this really cool lady that used to work at my school. And so there was this production that was being put on called Urban Underground Unplugged. And this lady who worked there, her name was Helen. You may have heard of her. So one of my friends actually worked down in the theater department, and she introduced me to Helen. And as soon as I opened the door, Helen kind of saw me and she was just like, oh my God, you look like me. She said that I reminded her of herself, I guess, when she was in college. And so she knew I was shooting photos and I was an art student. And she was just kind of like, hey, I'm working on this project. And she kind of gave me a little, she was like, all right, you can take a couple pictures out here. So it was like Amel Leroux and Yazara and Bazaar. Who else, Helen? Bilal, yeah. And so I went out and I did that event kind of shadowing her a little bit. And I think that summer
and I fell in love.
So I think that summer or the summer after that, she was working on a film, and she called me and she was just kind of like, hey, I'm doing this project. Like, do you want to be the still photographer for it? So I was like, okay, cool. This is like, I'm working on a movie. So I was like so excited to do that. And I shot stills for this movie with her. And then it kind of turned into like a little production assistant. So I'm helping with the set, and, Helen taught me a lot about continuity about things, and, whatever they have on when they're shooting, make sure they have that on when they go to shoot the next day. And, I learned a lot from just kind of watching her. And then I would do a lot of festivals, AFRAM, Artscape. I had a friend who had a band, and he came in, he saw me just walking into the festival, and I had no direction. I was just going in with my camera, and he just had this press pass and he just put it around my neck and was just like, go do it. And I was just like, are you serious? So he just said, get on the stage, go backstage, do whatever you want. And I think that's kind of when it was just like, yeah, concerts. I like this.
Right.
So the first person that I actually photographed on stage was Shaka Khan.
Oh, wow.
No way.
Yeah.
Super cool. That's
and
awesome.
I was just trying not to trying to hold it together. But it was a lot of fun. So I think from there, that's where the bug hit me.
Yeah, once you you feel the crowd, you get those shots, and you're like, oh man, this is amazing.
Yeah.
You feel it inside you, and you're like, all right, I want to keep doing this forever. Yeah.
And I think for me, like I've always been a music lover. My parents listened to a lot of music. I mean, everything across the board. And I grew up in the 80s and 90s, and I was the kid who pulled out all the magazines, and had the posters like all over my wall, everybody. So it's crazy for me now I have pictures of my bedroom when I was a teenager, all the people who I had on my walls. And like, I know some of the photographers who shot the photos that I had on my wall.
That's crazy.
And I've photographed some of the people that I had on my wall. And that's weird to me, because as a kid, I never would have imagined that I would have had a chance to do that. So
dream come true. Absolutely. That's so cool.
A dream that I didn't know I had, So
Yeah, that's awesome.
So you had a great opportunity when you met Helen. I mean, obviously Helen is super talented. So being able to, monitor her or have her as your sort of, your mentor or whatever, that is so awesome. I mean, I want to ask Helen a bunch more other things here in a few moments about her other talents as well. But so Kerika, going back to you, when did you meet Helen?
I went to high school with Helen.
Oh, you did? Okay, cool.
Yeah, we were on the cheerleading squad together.
Oh,
There's got to be pictures of that.
I think I was like a year young, sophomore, and she was a senior. And like they kept saying, Helen didn't come to practice today. Helen didn't come to practice today. And I was like, who's this Helen? And we had practice at Prospect Park, and we all outside. And I saw this girl coming in like these black V jeans. I don't know if y'all remember V jeans. You got to have a cute shape to wear V jeans. These V jeans, and she had like the studded belt. This is the 80s. We went to high school in the 80s. So she had like the studded belt. And I was like, who's that? And they were like, that's Helen. I was like, I'm going to be her friend. And we've been friends ever since.
That is so cool. So cool. And you guys share the same talent. Now, did you guys influence each other photography wise at all? Or was that just naturally you all just happen to have photography as a passion?
I think so. I think I might have influenced Helen a little. She was more into,
yeah, absolutely.
First started.
Karika's
go ahead.
Yeah, I was going to say Kerika, when Kerika was doing photography, she was doing it when I was in Purchase, right? Out in BMCC, and Kerika was already shooting because she went to Howard. You went to Howard right after high school, didn't you? So
yeah. Mm-hmm.
She went to Howard straight after high school, and I remember I told you I went to Hampton, then I came back to New York. I went to Birmingham Community College. Kerika was already doing her thing, so by the time we hooked up again, she was was it? I saw you at Spike Lee's block party. I think you were shooting at a block party, at one of the block parties, and it was right on Tech's block. It was right there.
Right.
And then she was, because Kerika not only is a photographer, she's an author. So she was writing, and she had synopsis for various like different screenplays she was thinking about doing, and then she was also putting together.
You got good memory. You got
yeah. No, you were putting together the idea of Flash and Circumstance at the time,
right?
Because Kerika had just shot a series, and she had just gotten into this book. It was this famed photographer. I forget her name, but
Deb Willis.
Yes, so she chose 100 of her favorite photographers, and Kerika is one of the photographers that made it into her coffee table book.
Wow!
And it's a great shot. It's if Kerika, if I'm not mistaken, it's Lauryn Hill at one of the Brooklyn festivals.
I have 10 pictures in that book.
You got 10 pictures, and is Sky in one of them?
Yeah. Sky. I was going to choose that picture tonight to show you guys, but I didn't. I don't know. But it's a picture of my daughter smiling at a Lauryn Hill concert.
Yes.
At the Brooklyn African Street Festival. They have a festival here every year, and they always have a headliner. And Lauryn Hill was the headliner that year, and I shot it for Daily News. But go ahead.
And so Kerika was my hero then, the way she was shooting, and like she said, she was doing stuff. She was working with publicists for events live music performances, but she was also working with publicity, theatrical publicity. So it was great because like she'd get a, I don't know if it's a call or a notice, or email or whatever, and they tell her like something was going on, and then like she'd go shoot it, and it would be fascinating. It'd be all these celebrities and stuff there, and then she'd come back and and she'd tell us about it. But Kerika was doing her thing way before, and then she joined a collective in Brooklyn, and it was called She's Shooting, and that was awesome because it was Black female photographers, and they had a gallery exhibit, basically, with photos from those particular photographers in the collective, and so that was really cool. So I always kept up with Kerika with what she was doing because I love the way she shoots as well. So I was basically like, and then we're friends, so. The other stuff.
You were in the film and arts world too, Yeah,
no, I know, but I'm just saying outside of the stuff I do, because when you do it, like when I'm working, it's work and stuff. But then when you have friends that do it, you get to admire it. It's
right.
Totally, it's different,
Right.
It's like, so you should. So you and Sancha were my two photographer friends. You know what I mean? Like, so I get to admire.
Well,
work.
You always encourage me because I would be like, and you'd be like, no, Kerika, this is a dope ass shot. This is a dope ass shot. And I'm like, really? Okay, I'll take the word for it.
And I'm never wrong, right, Kerika? It's the thing, because I think when you look at it like all the time, you know what I'm saying? But then when your friend comes in, and it's I'm not going to lie to my friends, so it's a perspective. So we get to have these conversations, and then they're fresh conversations about, how, to do stuff. So Kerika, I always attribute Kerika for inspiring me in terms of photography. And then she came to California, and she was trying to think of, she wanted to get some new photos, and she trying to figure out what she's going to do.
I remember those days coming to California.
I was so honored because Kerika came to California, and I shot her. So when you shoot your friend who's a photographer, one, there's a lot of pressure because she's going to be like, what type of angle is this? And then on the other hand, if they love it, you go, oh my God, okay.
No. I like being behind the camera, so I felt comfortable being in front of the camera with you behind the camera.
Right, because it's an extension,
what I mean?
So yeah, so we did, we had those type of moments, and we came away with, like some great shots, as well. And then with Sancha, Sancha was the one who, when I was in Morgan, so I was working down in Baltimore, I'd see Sancha, her artwork was crazy. I was like, this girl is so sick with a pencil. To be able to do that, and then she's sculpting, and I was like, what? So, I was working as the assistant event coordinator, and but I was also head of wardrobe, because they had the acting department, so I was wardrobe. So you get to interact with the art students and the acting and students and the kids a lot, and but Sancha was one I had to pull up because I was like, whoa, this girl. She had the drive. Like, she was the type of girl where, when I call Sancha, I'd be like, yo, there's a gig, blah, blah, blah. She'd be like, okay.
That's how you got to be.
Okay, that's it. She never made excuse. She never, like, it wouldn't even be like, well, I'm not sure. Sancha would be there, hell or high water. And this is before she had a car. Like, she was just like, she was busting it. So I'd be like, did you walk here? Like, I made it happen, and I told her I was going to tell this story. So I hope I don't embarrass her, but I'm going to tell it. So I used to be, because, when you're a freelance, you get your hustle on. So, I always be like 1,000 lives. So one of my lives, I was the artist handler. So the Lyric Opera House in Baltimore used to have like live music performances. And so I'd be the artist handler. So like, let's say Cameo performed, you handle Larry Blackman and the codpiece, you remember Cameo? And Cisco, he performed, what's his name? Tamia, and Mint Condition. So Sancha called Sancha there, and she had her camera, and I will never forget. I always say, Sancha was a whiz at getting on the stage and not being seen, but she was like, it was like she was a female Spider-Woman.
Wow.
I told her, I said, I think I have a shot of her, but I'm not sure. But I definitely remember her on the side. Like I was in the house, so she's house left. She's crawling up the side of the, the PA system, for the theater. They have it like in the front, the music performances. She's snaking in and out of the PA system on the stage, like legs hanging, belly core, just like trying to get the shot, not to be in anybody's way. This girl was so gangster with her camera. I was like, that right there, you can't even deny it. Like she was in it. She had that camera in Stokely's face like he didn't even know it.
Okay.
She was so good. So I remember with Sancha, I would just be like, you know what? I got this gig. I'm gonna call her. And she always, we did the Women's March in DC because Black Girls Rock founder Beverly Bond is a friend of mine, and she'll call me and be like, Helen, she was like, we're going to DC. You want to shoot? And I said, yep, Sancha, because Sancha lived in Virginia. And I said, I'm going to DC to shoot the Women's March. And this was 2017 in January. I said, you want to shoot? And she was like, yep. Sancha was there. She met me. She had her camera.
Ooh, it's cold that day.
We were
This was the
years ago on the stage. We were on.
This was the Women's March in 2018?
2017 with the Pink Hats. And when they had like the huge performance, and it was like everybody from
Alicia Keys,
Madonna,
Maxwell,
Hendrix, it was Janelle Monáe,
Jadena.
everybody was, and Bev was the DJ. And then they had like the Black Lives Matter movement, women that like it was just starting, and
Mothers of the Movement.
Huge. It was just a sea of, pink hats, and then it was the March on Washington. So we were there in the streets, and it was like the riots, and it was amazing because as a photographer, as a civilian, you might be like, okay, this is a little crazy. But as a photographer, you were in a candy store.
Right.
It was amazing. Remember Michael Moore was there. Then they had the signs, and they had the helicopters circling. I mean, we came away with some history-making photos. Like when you go, I guess like even the civil rights movement, and when you see the pictures, I don't know about too many people, but when I see all those photos from like historic times and like when they're in the street in it, I think about the struggle of the people, and I'd be like, damn, people getting it in, they want to be heard, of course. But I also slip to, damn, I wish I was a photographer. When you see the shots and you're like, oh, look at this shot. You know what I mean? To know that, that famous shot where they have like, I think it's like the cops and the German shepherds and the hoses, and they're hosing down, some kids, and they're holding the German shepherd. The photographers are fearless because they don't move. They get that shot. Anything can happen when you see those, the riot shots, and, people are just in it. But then you've got this bipartisan, not a part of anything except there to document the history of what's happening type of person with this lens. And then, that's where I get like kind of envious, where I'm like, oh, it's like, even now, it's like, COVID's happening, and I see some shots when I'm watching the news, and like when it was like the marches and stuff, because, I'm in California, so, it's not New York, it's not Chicago. So
and you have a new baby.
And I'm in Southern Orange County, so I'm basically going to march my tail down to nowhere and come home. There's nothing happening here. But to see the shots that photographers were able to get of those history-making moments in the streets, even in DC, when that shot of when they first showed Black Lives Matter in DC along the boulevard, and you see it, and I just said to myself, who took that picture? Like, it had just went up. The mayor said, yeah, okay, you can paint the street. And it went up. I always go, who takes those pictures? Like, or Getty Images, or, Associated Press, when you see AP behind the person's name. I'm always like, oh, that's awesome. I think I'm more in love with the history making shots and getting the people and in the moment and the passion of the moment, even of course more so than performance or anything, because that's documentation of our lives, So Sancha was there with me in that. And I just, by the time, you know, everything happens and life moves on or whatever, and you call me, go, hey, what are you doing? What are you doing? Kerika and I, you know, we're talking with my agent, we're trying to figure out Brooklyn because we want to do this love letter to Brooklyn, but then COVID hit. So we still got that in the works. We're trying to, you know, figure that out. Between Kerika and Sancha, they're my my sounding boards and my artisan soulmates, you know, in terms of, I just feel always connected to them because of this thing they do. And because, you know, I came in after them doing it. Like they said, they went to school, they were in their dark room.
But another thing that we all have in common, I just kind of realized this, I guess I always knew it, but it's like, you know, Sancha, you know, you also sketch, you also have, and Helen does, you know, she's the most talented seamstress, and, you know, so, and, you know, she can sew, and she can tell you her talents. And, you know, I write also, in addition to taking pictures. I think that we bring that creative aesthetic to behind the camera, you know, because I think the person taking the picture kind of affects the picture to me. I don't believe that anybody can take a great picture. I mean, yeah, you know, maybe if you have the right opportunity, but you also have to have a creative eye, a creative aesthetic. That's my belief. And
Yeah,
I agree. You all have
when you're an artist, you know, and I guess I'll say I can sort of relate when you have other talent besides the photography, that art talent, it really helps with your composition of your shots and stuff.
Definitely.
Like that.
That's what I was trying to say.
Part of it. Yeah, absolutely. There you go. Yeah, absolutely.
Composition, right?
Yeah. So tell us about some of your writings. What a little bit more information about that.
Well, a lot of times I used to accompany my photos with stories because I would just make more money. If it was like, you know,
perfect. Yeah.
Ice magazine wants a picture of, you know, Maxwell's concert, I might as well write. They're gonna pay her $100. I might as well write the art. I was there, so I used to do a lot of articles, entertainment wise, and then I started doing relationship articles, and I did an article called "He's Going Your Back" for a small magazine for Black women called Belle Magazine, for full-figured Black women. Belle, get it?
Yeah.
Belle. Anyway, and so I was invited to be on Bob Law. I don't know if you guys know Bob Law. He had a radio show in New York. He's more political minded, and I was invited to be on his show. I think it was like on NPR or one of those stations.
Okay.
And it was just talking about relationships and stuff. And I realized I got so many calls in back when people would call in to the radio station. And people would call in, and I was like, wow, this is a really interesting topic. So I started working on a book, and I ended up selling the book to Kensington in 2010. It's called "He's Going Your Back: The Right Way to Get Over Mr. Wrong." So far, that's my only book that I have had published, but that, you know, I'm still working on more. So, but that's my, you know, story. And I also you know, contribute to a lot of other publications and stuff like that. And I'm a member of the Rhode Island Writers Colony, where we go away every year and we just like write, and we just hunker down and write. And we have some pretty well-known alumni coming from there. Jason, what's his name? Jason. I can't remember it off the type of my head because I call him Jason all the time. And another girl, Elizabeth Arecibo, I can't remember people's names. But anyway, I try to surround myself with community-minded people, you know, whether it be photography or writing. So, and ultimately, I'm working on a book called Flash and Circumstance, How I Got That Shot, where I'm basically going to be, talking about, you know, basically what we're talking about tonight, really, some of the stories behind some of the pictures that I've taken over the years.
When it comes to your writing, hey Jackson, when it comes to your writing and stuff like that, so do you have a method? Do you like say, all right, I'm going to block off time and do writing, or is it just, it's in your brain, it's just dying to come out? What's your method for that?
I block off time. I also I always have a little notebook with me by my bed, just anywhere, or my phone. I'm always taking notes, but I have to say, the only way I can really be productive, because I have written 3 screenplays and 4 books. I just only have 1 published so far. But I have to say, you know, especially like to my husband, I'm like, okay, I'm writing today from 12 to 6. Cause you have to, else people will call you or, you know, the mailman and the Amazon, and you have to block out. I have to block out time. Everybody else has a different process. But when I have something that I want to get done, I have to set aside time during my day. So.
Do you get like writer's block or anything like that? How do you work around that?
I don't know if I call it writer's block, but I'll just be tired or something, and I have to come back to it sometimes, or I guess I'm stuck and I don't know what else to say. But I don't really like to call it block because, you know, I'm a Pisces, so I believe in flow, you know. So if it's just not flowing, it's just not flowing. But, you know, as I get older, I realize that even if it's not flowing, it'll flow if you sit down and make it flow or wait for the flow. But you have to kind of usher the flow in. You can't.
Yeah, I think any artist will struggle with like Jason calls them blocks. I think even as photographers, we sometimes struggle with that. There'll be months I'll go on, I need to photograph something and I don't know what, or can't quite get what I want to. I know what's in my head, but I just can't get out and do it.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? I understand what you're saying. You got to think about it. Something has to inspire you, and then it's like, okay, there it is.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. But you have to kind of look for it, you know?
Yeah.
And also I think, you know, the wiser you get, the more you know that it's going to come around again. So you don't really panic. You know what I mean?
Correct.
You know it's going to come because you know yourself. So you know it's going to come around again.
Do you set like a page number or anything for you for like, you know, today I'm going to try to get like 10 pages or anything?
No, unless I'm on a deadline.
Yeah.
Or something, and I'm like, you know, I have to finish this, and I have to have, you know, I only have 20 pages, and I know I need to submit, you know, 30 pages or whatever. But not really. I don't put that kind of pressure on myself. You know, I really, it might be a scene or it might be a chapter. You know, I know how I want this chapter to go, and I know what I want to say here today. Sometimes it could be something that I think about while I'm sleeping, and I write down a sentence and I go, okay, I'm going to expound on this sentence in this sit down session.
So more intuitively.
Yeah.
So you've written 3 screenplays. Can you give a synopsis of any of those?
Well, the first one I wrote was called Dada. Like, my sister's name was Kidada, and Kidada means little sister, and Dada means sister. But Dada is also an art form, Dadaism.
Okay.
So that was the very first screenplay I wrote, and it was really about a girl falls in love from the guy from the wrong side of the tracks, and you know, and and she was a dancer or something. I still have that screenplay, and then. What did I most recently? I wrote one called about a photographer, and it's kind of like a spin on an old Cary Grant movie where like the guy tells everybody he's a bachelor because he doesn't want to settle down, but he meets this sassy, beautiful photographer.
I remember that one. That's a great. I remember it.
It's like a romantic comedy. That's the one that really.
We like Brad Pitt needs to play. Remember Brad Pitt was.
Brad Pitt, whoever. I don't care, but in the movie, it was Cary Grant and like Ingrid Bergman or whatever. Right, she was an actress.
Right.
Like The Bachelor, and he would lie and say he's married because if you think I'm married, you won't put pressure on me to marry you. Right. But of course, in true romantic comedy form, the wonderful the woman changes the bachelor's mind. Anyway, so that's about two of the other one. What's the other one? I don't want to give away all my secrets.
You don't have to. No, I just wanted to know. So now that with COVID this year, has that improved your writing or has that slowed down your writing?
Definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely. I mean, this time last year, I was working in Manhattan. I had a receptionist job, you know, you got to pay the bills, you know what I mean? And I would be writing and, you know, it was very convenient though, because I was in the city. I could still freelance. I could still do what I wanted to do, but it was a little stressful, you know what I mean? So now I'm just chilling and I'm just writing and that's it. You know, thank you, honey. My husband is inside. It's like you know what I mean? So it's cool.
Oh, excellent. Excellent.
That's
cool. So let's move over back to Sancha. Is that right? Did I get it?
Did.
All right, cool. Thanks. So let's talk about some of your other. So you're an artist and a sculptor, I heard as well.
Yeah.
Can you talk about some of those things?
So I think for me, I've always been creative. I was a creative kid. I was always drawing, and I used to write poetry. My parents were in the military, and so we lived out in Vegas for a little while. And I remember in school, I used to write little short stories and write poetry all the time. And one of my teachers sent me this, it was called a SNWP, Southern Nevada Writers Project. And they sent me to like UNLV for the summer to just kind of write with them. And I just kind of started doing like short stories, and that turned into poetry, and that turned into, I think I want to write music, So I had asked my mom to asked her to buy me a keyboard, and I played in a band, but I didn't know how to I wasn't a singer. I didn't know how to write music really. So
was this like back in school when you played in the band?
This was in middle school and high school. And then so what I would do is like a lot of the poetry and stuff that I would write, I would kind of like hear it as music, but I didn't know how to get it out. So I would try to play things by ear, thumbing around on the keyboard with it. And then I had you remember the like 5-disc changer things. So I had that in like 2 boom boxes. And so I would kind of play a little bit and record it on one and like switch the tapes back and forth until I could get it all out.
Yep.
So I would do that. And then it just turned into, just still writing poetry, drawing, sculpting. I started doing that when I got to college because again, it was just part of the curriculum. And so I took this class, 3D design. And I remember one of my teachers was just like, okay, so everybody had one project that they were working on, but they ran out of the material. So he was kind of like, there's a pile of 2x4s and a jigsaw and some glue, like wood glue, like make something out of it. So I'm like, all right. So I put on my goggles and my gloves and everything. And I made like this, Helen probably saw it. It's like this 7-foot wooden sculpture that I like just carved out of like 2x4s and stuff. So I kind of had a lot of fun with that. Sculpture it was kind of therapeutic, I think for me, my favorite part about it was doing like the carvings though. So I would use the plaster and just kind of carve away from it and just kind of make little abstract things with that. I actually just bought some recently because I'm like, well, I'm not shooting. So
Sancha, you gotta Google James Giddens. He was a Harlem-based sculptor, and he had a sculpture theater in Harlem.
James Giddens?
James Giddens, Gittens. I hope they have some of his stuff anyway.
Okay, I'll check it out.
You'll love his stuff.
So I started doing that, and so my thing right now is trying to get back into the fine art, into drawing and painting everything. Painting was not something that I did well, and it terrifies me actually. So I just bought a bunch of paint and some canvases and everything. And I have like some picture that I took from the window of an airplane of a sunset. And so I was like, I'm going to paint that. And Bob Ross makes it look real easy, right? So it's not going the way that I planned, but I'm trying to stick with it. So
at least you're doing it. What was it? Eleanor Roosevelt said, you must do the thing that you're afraid
that I'm scared of. Yeah, it's hard because I've been doing photography for so long now, and I haven't drawn anything. It's just kind of like I picked up the camera, I put down the pencil, the graphite, the charcoal, all of that.
Yeah.
And so trying to kind of switch the way, like when I'm shooting photos, it's different. It's kind of like something is happening right in front of me. And my job is to capture that moment or, tell the story. And then when I'm picking up a pencil, it's just kind of like I'm trying to take something out of my head and put this down on paper. Mm-hmm. And it never comes out the way that you see it in your head. You know? And
I was never good at Pictionary myself.
And so that part's like really frustrating. And I kind of challenge myself. My sister and I have been talking a lot about like psychology and stuff lately. And there's a artist who was talking about how he was writing some songs and he he wrote everything. I guess his dominant hand may have been his right hand, but he wrote everything with his left hand because it forced him to not have any expectations, right? So with your dominant hand, you know what you're capable of.
Wow.
You know? And so it's just like, and I guess it's supposed to kind of revert you to this kind of childlike state where you're just free to do it because you're not judging the work. So I challenge myself to paint with my left hand.
Interesting.
So that I already know that I'm afraid of it. You know what I mean? So, and I don't want to have these expectations of I know what my right hand can do when I use a pencil or whatever. So if I try with my left hand, I don't expect anything. So I'm just freer to just do it and not judge the work. So that's what I've been kind of trying to work on. And, you know, it's happening.
With that, you know, one of the things I realized for myself is a very similar thing was I envision a thing and I want to create that thing, whether it be music related or whatever, digital art or something like that. And I find that I'm not recreating the thing I want. I'm actually creating my style of that thing. So being like you know, I'll go in there and I'll either write a song. I have a very specific vision of a song I want to write. And when I end up playing and all this stuff, it's very, very different from what I wanted it to be. And so I certainly can relate to that perspective of me kind of getting frustrated of, all right, this is not what I wanted, but this is what my body's giving me. Sort of that's my own style and stuff like that. So I certainly can relate to that as well in other means.
I'm just trying to push through it. And, you know, it's crazy. Like when I left school, when I graduated, right after I graduated, I started working for an IT company and I was there for like 8 years. And I was the receptionist for 2 years. And then I was a executive admin assistant for one of the VPs. And then every day I would go into work and all I would think about is what I wanted to do when I got home. Right. So I'm there and all I'm thinking about is I'd rather be shooting photos. I wish I could be shooting this picture, or I have this idea for this drawing or a sculpture or a collage, or there was always something else that I wanted to be doing. And all I wanted was time. So here's COVID.
Yeah, there you go.
Right. And then it's just kind of like all I've been asking for all these years was time. And now the time is here. And I'm kind of fighting against having it. You know, it's just kind of like, I want to be outside. I want to be working. I want to be. And it's just like, this is the time that I've been asking for. So I've been trying to really, it took me a long time to get to this point to say that, all right, just go buy the canvas, just go buy the paint and just go do it.
Yeah.
You know, so it's been rough, but I finally got to the point where I said, this is the time you've been asking for. This is when you should be creating something. So I'm hoping that something beautiful comes out of it, you know?
I'm sure it will. Yeah, absolutely. Well, you know, just, I'm sure we'll talk more about your photos and your art in a few moments, but your website, you have some, I believe some of your artwork up on your website. That looks amazing.
Well, thank you.
Yeah, it looks really, really cool. So let's jump over to Helen real quick, if you're all right. I see someone peeking every so often behind you. One of the things we didn't get to talk about, and I actually just emailed you earlier, is some of your hats and stuff like that you have. Can you kind of give us a little history around some of that stuff?
Oh, the crochet.
Yeah.
Easy. It was, you know, I started crocheting when I was about 7, really. And a friend, you know, taught me, and it was pretty cool. She lived across the street, and I went to the same school as they did. So her name was Dawn Stewart, and she was like 13. And I remember, you know, so she taught me how to crochet. And
Helen.
Yeah. Oh,
yeah, I got a song upstairs too.
That's Questlove from the Roots.
Oh, wow.
I just this picture today.
Oh, wow. That's so cool.
Her hat.
I'm rocking a hat and a sweater. I made that sweater too.
I'm going to email this to you.
One of your scarves. One of your scarves upstairs.
No, that's what's up. Thank you. Wow. So, yeah, so that was it. Everything, you know, synchronicity is real because it all came together when it was supposed to, because when I started crocheting again for real, it was basically during the period of, you know, So for hip hop, you know, I listen. I'm a hip hop girl. You know, I'm soul and R&B and you know all of that. I'm you know, and then
Rock and roll.
out, you know, I was born, you know, in '67. So by '77, can you imagine being, you know, 10 years old and preteen in the '70s, and you know all of that music flowing, and then
Brooklyn.
you know we went to high school. You know, me and Kerika, we went to high school in the '80s. So when Pretty in Pink came out, and when Molly Ringwald was trying to figure out, you know, who she was going to spend her birthday with, you know, Michael Schaefer, Jake Ryan. From 16 Candles, we were in high school. So what a beautiful time to experience, you know, that type of music and all of that stuff coming out. But at the same time, there was a revolution happening in the, you know, the mid to late '70s, and that was hip hop. And so that, you know, and then we were in Brooklyn. So New York, we were experiencing music coming at us from every angle, you know, all of it was absolutely amazing, you know. So you had, of course, you know, your rock from the '80s was crazy, and you got your funk from the '70s, and you got your, you know, your R&B, the '80s, but the hip hop that was coming out, like I remember where I was the first time I heard Run DMC's Suck It MC, and you know, Walk This Way, and then you know, Curtis Blow, Christmas Rapping, you know, all of that stuff. And when you had to, if you liked the record, you had to go to the record store and buy it. You know what I mean? So we came up during those times. So by the time the late '90s came around and I was done with Purchase and everything, I had kind of stopped crocheting, but hip hop music had started to take on a new leg. And, you know, it was pretty much like when the earthiness of Erykah Badu came out and India Arie, and they, you know, they brought their sisterhood to it. And then, you know, when the brothers came out and they were rhyming about, you know, education, and they were battling with their minds, and you know, when Raucus came out, and then you know, it's Pharoah Monch and Mos Def and Kweli and Common, and you know, you got this warmth in hip hop, because then the Lauryn Hills, you know, Lauryn Hill and the Fugees, you know, they took that R&B that we grew up with and they merged it into this hip hop, and so it was this perfect hybrid. But the clothes and the style began to reflect that as well. And so, you know, that's when brothers and sisters really started growing their locks. You know, it went from having like the small ones to people going, I think I'm going to grow my hair, you know, and that turns into a fashion statement, because then it was like, well, what do I wear on my hair? And I remember a lot of my friends and brothers and sisters that I knew who had locks that were coming out long, their main complaint was, I can't find anything fly to wear on my head outside of a sack. You know, like, you know, in Jamaica, you know, you just take and you put the locks in a sack, you know, and I, you know, had locks as well. And it was like, yeah. And, you know, one of my friends was like, you should start crocheting. I bet you could kill it. And I was like, yeah, I could kill it. And so I, you know, was like, what if, you know, the crochet, you know, who says crochet hats can't be fly? And so my idea of fly, you know, because I'm from Brooklyn, so I'm probably going to be 90 years old calling something dope. You know, that's my superlative. Everyone knows what it means, you know, but I was like, how come crochet hats can't be dope? And then I'm a costume designer. And so my mind is flying around all of these, you know, styles and what stuff should look like. And then I just started, I guess it's what Sancha said, you know, it goes from, but unlike the photography where it's right in front of you and you just capture it, you have this process that has to happen. And Kerika knows this as a writer, it's all up here and it's perfect. You know, you're like, if you could see what I saw, award after award after award. But it's the
genius. I'm a genius.
I know, I'm a genius.
I'm brilliant.
But now I got to get it out, you know. So once you get it out, if it even remotely resembles what you had in your head and someone goes, oh my goodness, that's already like that's fuel to push forward. And so I started making these hats, and it went really well, to the point that, you know, Kerika, God bless her, you know, I love having these friends. I'm gonna tell you this, Sancha, Kerika, and then, you know, we got a host of girlfriends and stuff. We're like these are the sister girls, you know, because they have your back whether you're in the room or not. And like one thing Kerika did where I'll never forget, she rolled up on Common. Remember you caught her? She caught Common in Brooklyn on a city street. And what did you do? You walked up to him and you were like, who made your hat?
I said, you need to wear my friend's hat. You know, because I think he was always kind of wearing hats. That was like his thing.
He always wore the
maybe.
crochet hats, yeah.
And I was like, you need to, and his was like Linty or like, it was like, I'm like, you're a good looking guy. You're on the come up. Because this is before he was even acting. He was really just a rapper.
Yeah.
And, you know, I just dropped your name. And then you guys, and did I give him your card or did you end up meeting him independently?
It was a small world because she went up to Common and she was like, you need to rock my homegirl's hats. But at the time, that's when I told you guys I was freelancing, kind of like hanging out at Raucous, and I was answering phones and doing all types of stuff. Common was friends with Mos Def and Talib Kweli, so he had just moved to Brooklyn. So he was coming up to Raucous Records in the Village and he was hanging out. And then like, I think it happened like, he was like, wait, your name is Helen, do you crochet? I was like, yeah. And he was like, yo, one of your friends came up to me on the street and he was like, I think her name, did you give him your name?
I don't know. Maybe.
Anyway, somehow we found out, that happened. But anyway, he and I became cool. And I told him, I said, yeah, I do crochet. And he was doing something for BET, I think. And he was like, yo, I need a hat. Because he would always, that was his signature, the custom hat. He always wore like a cool hat. I said, I can make you something. And I made him a hat. And I remember he came back and was like, yeah, I think I'm gonna need about 15 more of those. Mm-hmm. So nice. I remember I just made, a ton of hats for him. And then, took them to him and we got in the cab. I was like, we gotta go to the ATM because we got.
He wore, I have pictures of him. He wore them the night that SOB's clothes. Was it SOB? Oh no, Tramp's clothes. And Tribe Called Quest performed, and Leonardo DiCaprio was in the audience. Remember?
Yes, and Questlove. Was it Questlove? Questlove was the DJ. I think he was the DJ.
Questlove was the DJ, and like the whole audience.
Black Eyed Peas performed. Busta Rhymes was there.
Busta Rhymes was there, but he had a comment hat on your hat.
Yes, and that was actually. Remember, I got on the stage real quick. Remember, I got on stage and I did like a quick MC bit, like
I think so,
like real quick. Somebody was late. They were like, "Helen, get up here."
I think I might have been late because I might have missed that because I would have took pictures of that.
But they, we had like a whole thing where people would come to me and just be like, "I need a hat," and my thing was, I custom made it. I would redo a style 1,000 times. I never redo the same color scheme. So every hat's an original.
Unique.
So you can get, like I had style names for the hat, so you could get a Mexican eagle, but if you got the Mexican eagle and it was burgundy with like a, navy brim and, I've never made the same hat. So that made it really cool. So people would come to me and show me their coats or show me some boots and be like, I got these boots, I need something to match it. And that's really how it kind of took off. But then because I was working in film and TV and stuff, someone, would be like, oh, the stylist needs this. And then there was, remember Degrassi Junior High? The show?
It was
Degrassi Junior High?
Yeah.
The TV show.
Yeah.
I got a call from the costume designer and I made a hat for one of the characters on there. And then there was this movie that came out with Lisa Kudrow and Damon Wayans. Remember that? It was a comedy. Oh, it was so bad. It was so bad. It was good. It was like Lisa
Kudrow
and Damon Wayans.
Hey, I got to see that tonight. What?
It was.
Is that like in the 90s?
Watching that tonight. Tonight.
In the 90s. Like, wait, it was in the 90s. And Lisa Kudrow plays this Jewish American princess, and her father owns this hip hop company, and Damon Wayans is the star hip hop artist. And of course, it's like a Romeo Juliet thing.
I'm not doing it.
There's a scene where she attends like the American Music Awards, and she's trying to like get his attention, and she wears this strapless dress with this Erykah Badu
No.
Oh, head wrap. I made the head wrap.
Oh,
So I started getting calls for like stuff where Marcy X. That's the name.
no. Oh, I remember the name of it. Yeah, I remember that name.
Marcy X. And as a matter of fact, that head wrap made it onto like the box. Because you know, back in the day it was a DVD, you turn it over, they put the head wrap. But I would get calls because of the headgear, you know, to make other stuff. So once again, the artistry just goes and forms. But the hats took off. Macy Gray ended up getting 5. I gave one to John Stamos. I gave a hat to Justin Timberlake. I gave who else got hats? Quite a few people. I remember Music Soul Child when he was doing his thing. I sent him a hat, and I
have a picture of him in one of your hats too. I gotta send that. I gotta find that.
I was on a train and I was reading Honey magazine, and I look, and he's sitting in a chair with Shaka Khan, and I screamed on the train because he's rocking one of my hats, and I was like, ah! So yeah,
cool.
no, it's crazy. So I'm about to actually jump off the crochet again. I've got some really, really cool stuff, and it's cool stuff. If you are, you know, in a position where, you know, you just like to, I try and make it the personality. So whoever you are, you know, it's not for the timid. It's very, you know, I can make like something that's plain or regular, but it's really for people. Normally, if you rock one of my hats, I'll be honest, someone's gonna come up to you and be like, "That's a nice hat." You know?
I'll take one, please.
I'll take, you know.
Hey, winter's coming.
That's what you want. You want them to be like, that's nice.
It's cold up there in New Hampshire, right?
Yeah. So
Yeah, it's cold. I got a bald spark going.
Get you stacked.
I made one for Regis Philbin. He put it on the air. Kelly, what's her name? Kelly. Remember Kelly and
Ripa?
Oh, Kelly Ripa, yeah.
Kelly Ripa, yeah. So it, you know, getting into the celebrities and stuff is cool, but to be honest with you, the reward is when, you know, you get it like to your friends and family, and they go like, "Oh, this is amazing." One of my friends had somebody, you know, robbed his hat. He was at work. He put it in his locker, and he said they left his wallet and took his hat.
Oh shit!
And so when he told me, time on, he was like, "Time on." He was like, "They took his hat," and I said, "They left your wallet and took your hat." And I gotta be honest, I was touched. I was like, that's bad news.
Did he have any money in the wallet? I'm just like,
no, but I was like, that's bad news for you, but that's good news for me as a somebody left your wallet, took the hat. But yeah, so you know, it all kind of mends together. It's all artistry.
So, are you still actively selling those now?
Yeah, I'm about to knock it out. You know, every time I get ready to go in the room and pick up a needle, I just hear mama.
Yeah, I understand that. Yeah, absolutely. So let's go back and talk about music for a little bit. Now, I think if I remember correctly, Helen, you had written some songs in the past, and I also seem to remember something about playing bass as well.
Dude,
And you were going to practice before this.
Yeah. Something about that.
I think I heard her say that too.
Yeah, you know what? I don't know.
But musically, are all three of you still actively doing music or anything to that? No, those days are long gone. Poetry.
I'm an active listener to music
because I gotta hit it with this, you know, these people.
Yeah.
So
I have no music inclinations. I can sing in the shower, but I've never been a musician.
Pick a song, we'll listen. Go ahead.
I still have my little flute in the box back there, and the keyboard I passed on to my niece, and that's about it. I listen. I don't really write anymore either, but I listen to a lot of music. Like, you know, my day isn't complete without that really, but no, I don't play at all anymore. I could probably still read the music and play like all that stuff. But I'm no Lizzo. Like
You're way ahead of me on that.
I'm not that nice with it. But yeah.
I can't even whistle.
I can whistle, but that's about as far as it goes now.
Hey, thanks for watching part 1 of our interview with Helen, Kerika, and Sancha. We hope you enjoyed it. Part 2 will be coming soon. Check out our other guests on our YouTube page and on talesfromthepit.com. Until then, we'll see you soon.